Hi, welcome back to the channel and my top 10 movies of 2024. So whenever I get to the end of the year, I like to wrap up the year in film and talk about my conclusions with my favourites of the year, my worsts of the year, and I've got some other fun rankings and stuff like that to come as well. So of all the new releases I've seen, I've narrowed it down to my favourite 10 movies. There's two that may have made this list, which you're not going to see on here. One is Anora, which is Sean Baker's newest film. Just didn't get a chance to see it in cinema, and it's not on streaming yet. And also Nosferatu. For some reason in the UK, we're not getting that out here until the 1st of January. So you're not going to see those two on this list, but I've been so looking forward to both of them. So they're going to have to be two I talk about next year. But please do let me know down in the comments what you think of my top 10 and let me know all of your favourite movies that have come out this year too. So let's crack straight on with this list, starting at number 10. And that is going to be Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So this is them starting again in the franchise with another new story in this world. Years after the conclusion we had in the trilogy of Apes films. And I thought they did a really good job with this one. I really enjoyed the adventure. I got really into the characters. I thought the conflict was interesting. I think it finished up on a really nice note as well to sort of get you intrigued with what's to come in the future. And yeah, I was really pleased with the outcome of this film, given the director was a little bit of an unknown as well. But I think they did a bang up job with this. I would say it's not quite at the level yet of Dawn and War for the Planet of the Apes. This bar was set so high with them. We're not quite there. But in terms of starting a new story again, I prefer this to Rise. So I think we're onto something good here. You know, the movie does take a little while to get going. It's probably half an hour, 40 minutes before I was fully invested in everything going on. But once I was in, I really got myself invested and immersed into this story and really enjoyed this movie. So if you're a Planet of the Apes fan like I am, definitely worth checking this one out if you didn't go to see it. Number 9 is Heretic, and this was the horror film that came out a couple of months ago starring Hugh Grant. And I really enjoyed this one. Definitely worth seeing for Hugh Grant alone. I love this little switch up and he's having in his career later in life, doing all these very different roles than we're used to seeing him typecast in. He's really creepy, really disturbing. And yeah, it's one of those sort of religious horror films that debates between belief and non-belief, because that's kind of the reason this character is manipulating the two female leads when he brings them into his home, and it just turns into a complete nightmare from there. And really glad that this one didn't actually spoil everything in the trailers. You know, normally with horror films especially, you get everything shown to you in the trailer. You have no real surprises to come when you see the movie, but this one looked really interesting but kept everything very ambiguous as well, which I appreciated. Definitely a very dark film, goes pretty crazy in the final half an hour or so, but it really works. I don't think maybe it was quite as good as some people are making out. Some people are really talking about it as like one of the best horror films in recent years, and I wouldn't go quite to that extent with it. I hope I didn't make it sound like in my review I didn't like it, just because I was talking about some of the more mixed aspects. But overall, I thought this was a really fantastic horror film, and definitely a must-watch for fans of the genre. My number 8 choice is Longlegs. So this was the new Osgood Perkins horror film we had back in the summer, starring Nicolas Cage. And I think he did an amazing job with this as well. It was a really great atmosphere he built up in this film. Really intense, quite scary as well. I thought the first 2/3 in particular, when you're following Michael Monroe's character kind of hunting down this serial killer, I was just so invested in everything that was going on, and genuinely quite unsettling, especially watching it in the cinema as well. It was quite an experience. And I totally get why people have been praising this movie to the level they have been. The only thing about it that brought it down a bit for me was the direction it goes in the final half an hour when it gets into explaining why or how the serial killer has been managing to get away with what he's doing. I don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen it, but it's not as grounded as it was in the first half. I think it gets maybe a little bit off the rails, which brought it down just a bit for me. And whilst I do love Nicolas Cage, you know, they bring him in to turn it up to 11, and they certainly do that here with his performance, which some people will love. but won't be for everyone. And whilst I did like it, I thought maybe at times they took it a little bit too far. But other than that, I still think it's a really brilliant horror film and another must-watch of the year. My number 7 pick, I went with Challengers. So this was the tennis film that came out earlier on in the year, directed by Luca Guadagnino. And it's basically the one about this three-way relationship between these characters who are all trying desperately to make it competitively within the tennis world. And as they're having this relationship, you see how they kind of bring the worst out in each other because of their obsessions with Zendaya's character and also with trying to make it competitively in tennis. And, you know, he's a masterful director. I think he knows how to get you really gripped into the drama and the story. And I just found it really entertaining and interesting to see the journey of these characters. Got some really nice spicy drama in there as well. Some great dialogue. And yeah, it just keeps you gripped throughout. You know, even for people that aren't necessarily into sports films, the tennis is definitely not the focus of the movie. You can see it just as a drama as well. And yeah, I thought this one worked really well. I enjoyed watching this. The only thing I thought was a bit off about it was it's one of those films that's told over a period of years, and the way it kind of flicks back between past and present becomes a little bit jarring in the way it's edited. It takes you a couple of minutes to kind of work out where this is supposed to be taking place. That was my only real nitpick with the film, but other than that, I really loved this one. So if you like these kind of dramas, definitely worth checking out. Number 6 is Civil War. So this was the newest Alex Garland film we had. I was so excited for this movie because Ex Machina and Annihilation are two of my favourite films we've had in years. I love them so much. And I think that whilst this is not on that level, I don't think, I still really enjoyed the film. It wasn't as much of a hot topic in the end to discuss this movie as people thought it was going to be, given that it was talking about a civil war in America and all the divisiveness politically. It didn't kind of pick a side and lead into that. It was more of an outside neutral look into a civil war as society is breaking down, and you follow these characters, these photojournalists who are trying to get an interview with the president before he's kicked out of power, and it deals with themes like the brutality of war, the divisiveness of people, what that can lead to, and stuff like that. And I thought it was really interesting to go along with. Really good drama, brilliant performances as well, and yeah, just a gripping 2-hour watch. I think he's done a really great job with this next movie. He's a very clever writer, Alex Garland. You know, he's very subtle with the way he brings themes and ideas into his movies, so you never feel like anything is too heavy-handed with some of the stuff that he's talking about, and that runs through Civil War here as well. So really liked what he did with this film, and looking forward to seeing what he does next. Number 5 is Society of the Snow, and I guess this counts as a 2024 movie. It didn't come out here in England on Netflix until January, so I'm counting it as a film from this year. And this was the one based on a true story about the rugby team of young guys who were on that flight through the Andes, and it crashed into the snowy mountains. And all of the rescue missions failed, so they basically had to survive by any means possible for, I think, months even. You know, it was weeks and weeks and weeks. And yeah, it was just a horrific story told in an amazing way here by director J.A. Bayona. And I thought the film was absolutely amazing. It's one that I wouldn't go back to watch again, just because it is so harrowing and so brutal. It's hard to believe these are real events that did take place. And all the way through, you just feel broken by everything going on. So when you finally get to see the ending of the story, thankfully there was a little bit of a happy ending. And you just feel like you've been hit by a bus by the time you get to the end of this movie. And I had to watch it over 2 nights because of how punishing it was to get through. But it's a very powerful film. It's incredibly directed, amazing performances. It all feels very real. And yeah, I really do appreciate the job he's done with this film. As I say, the only reason it's not higher is just due to rewatchability, which is something I factor into my rankings. And I think this is one of those movies that I'm glad I've seen, but I'm not going to be going back to again anytime soon. But for a one-time watch, when you're in the right mindset to do it, watch Society of the Snow, because it is quite an incredible film. Number 4, Furiosa, the newest Mad Max film in the series. And I really loved this movie. Liked it way more than I thought I was going to. And I seem to be one of the few people that isn't quite as big on Fury Road. I definitely liked the film, but I think it's lacking a little bit in the character department with the focus on the action. It's all good fun. You know, I did review it recently. I was positive on the movie. But I would have liked a little bit more from the story and the characters. And that's pretty much what Furiosa is. It's the same movie, but just more detailed, more interesting drama going on between Furiosa and it's basically a prequel story to everything that went down in Fury Road. And yeah, just really enjoyed this one. It was a great adventure, really incredible action. You got that great villain played by Chris Hemsworth as well. And Anya Taylor-Joy was a great actress to take over the role as Furiosa. So definitely for Mad Max fans, one to check out. Don't be put off by some of the more mixed reviews that came out because I thought this film was pretty damn good, and I didn't feel that running time at all. It's about 2.5 hours, the movie, but I really enjoyed every second of this one. It's actually now my second favourite of the Mad Max films, just after The Road Warrior. That's how much I liked it. But if you do want to hear more of my thoughts on all the Mad Max films, I have reviewed them all and done a separate ranking as well if you're interested. But if you're a Mad Max fan and you like this world, definitely give this one a go. Number 3, Alien Romulus. Absolutely love the Alien world. I was so looking forward to seeing this new film by Fede Alvarez. Great director as well. He's done some really good horror. He's definitely got a talent for it with his Evil Dead remake and what he did in Don't Breathe. I thought they were fantastic. And yeah, this movie really works, telling kind of a new story in this universe and kind of taking elements from all of the different films as well that didn't always work in previous films, namely resurrection. You know, there's a whole piece towards the end of this film which really does feel like a throwback to what they did in Resurrection, but just done way better here. And I like that they didn't ignore all of the storylines that took place in the prequels with Prometheus and Covenant. So you've got little details like that thrown in here, but at its core, this is a back to basics alien horror film, a group of people on a space station being hunted and stalked by the xenomorph, and just as a thrill ride to see at the cinema, I thought it was quite amazing. So really enjoyed Alien Romulus. Looking forward to going back and seeing this one again. And for me, it's definitely one of the best Alien films we've had. I think I put it third in my ranking, but after the excitement wore down a bit, I think I would maybe have Prometheus slightly higher than this. But for most people, I suspect since the first two films, this is going to be most people's favourite. So another great entry in the Alien franchise, and I do hope we get to see a follow-up to this movie. Number 2 is The Substance, and this movie was just total and utter insanity. I can see as the years gone on, a lot more people are talking about this now. It's been memed to death. Loads of shorts on this film kind of showing off how insane some of the sequences are. And yeah, I had so much fun with this. It was genuinely bold, genuinely unique, and, you know, just right up my street. This is a movie that's definitely inspired by all the works of David Cronenberg. If you think of stuff like The Fly and Videodrome, if you love all that stuff, this is like a modern day version of one of those movies. And not just as a great horror film, but a great commentary as well on modern day Hollywood and aging, and how, you know, talking about the short lifespan of celebrities living within that world. I thought it was a really fun commentary on that, done in a very interesting way. Definitely amazing performances as well from the lead actresses, Margaret Qualley and Demi Moore. They had to really give their all to this role, and they do not hold back. So yeah, had quite a time watching this one. Definitely the most unique film I saw this year, and it's also my favourite horror film this year. Definitely not for the faint of heart. It is a wild movie, but most certainly worth checking out. It was tough for me to decide between this and my number 1. That's how good this film was. So if it did pique your interest, that trailer, definitely go back and check out The Substance. And my favourite film of the year, as will probably be for most people, I imagine, that is Dune Part 2. So the second part of Denis Villeneuve adapting this story of Dune. And this movie is totally deserving of the word epic. To see this on the big screen was quite an experience. I haven't gone back to it since, just because I don't really want to watch it now on a small screen, because it was so amazing seeing that with the surround sound. Just, you get totally immersed in this world that's been set up here, and yeah, it's quite a ride. Works really nicely as a middle chapter as well. Obviously, this isn't a complete story yet. Kind of ending off with a load of storylines not quite tied up. But it works very well as a middle chapter. So many interesting elements brought in. I thought it builds amazingly on the world that was already set up and established in the first. You can really get deeper into the characters. And something I loved about this one more than the first was, despite the really long running time, a lot of the different sequences are split up in a way that each of them have their very own distinct style and dynamic about them. So it really does change up the pace of the film, keeps everything interesting. It never ever feels mundane or like you're kind of dragging along with the same tone the whole way through. And it works extremely well. So was really quite impressed by this film. I was highly anticipating it. I did love that first Dune, but this is Denis Villeneuve, like at the absolute peak of his career, working in a genre I love, which is sci-fi. And I don't think there's anybody out there right now creating as amazing sci-fi worlds as him. So yeah, just did an amazing job with this film. I absolutely loved it. There's a reason why everyone's going to have this so high up on their rankings for the end of the year. It definitely is the standout, I think. So my favourite movie of 2024, Dune Part 2. So that is my top 10 movies from 2024. As I said, please do let me know what you think of my choices down below. Just my personal opinion on my favourite movies. But do let me know all of your choices as well, and all your favourites of film that came out this year. Thanks so much for watching this video. Really do appreciate it. Next up, I've got coming my worst movies of the year. And I am actually going to do a ranking of every horror movie I saw this year as well, so look forward to that. But until next time, do take care, and I'll see you next time.